This is Gaby the Goose. She is a PhD in Avian Overy Physics, and she kind of caused the bird flu a couple of years ago, and she's pretty sorry for that. But she has read the story about the goose with the golden eggs, and she figured two can play that game. So she's trying to get to the bottom of it for monetary profit.
So the whole point of this diorama is that this goose is experimenting on its eggs. And the egg will be trapped inside this clamp in between sort of two power coils, and it will be suspended in lightning. So we start with our goose, and we have to get rid of this flower bouquet. So I bought myself a Dremel tool and started cutting away at the stone flowers. This went relatively easy, except there was just a lot of white dust. So next up, we remove some washing machine electronics to use as sort of fake cables in this setup. I saved the motor of this washing machine for future reference, and it's a beast. Like that thing's scary powerful. So I cut out a bunch of wires from this thing. So the next step is I would like to give our little goose a control panel to control his egg in the device. What are we going to use for that? One of these switches and a bunch of the connector cables that came out of the washing machine. So I'm going to try and put all of that together on a tiny table with this, what is this, brass, with this brass footing. The goose is on a little platform with cables. This is also just stolen from the washing machine. Then on top we have a tiny platform with more cables. A switch that lives on top of that. And then our goose friend controlling the whole thing from a little bit away. And so we cut this little void in between his wings. So I want to give him like a connection box, a control box that he holds in here. And for that we're going to glue together a USB port and two of these, I have no idea what they are, two of these washing machine connectors. The reason I'm putting the USB bus in between is because it matches exactly the gap inside the goose's arms. So this will kind of sandwich in once everything is dry. And I don't need these super long cables that are attached to the end, so I'm going to chop them off here. The whole thing is going to rest on a base, and that base I'm going to make out of these staples, essentially. These are just staples from a staple gun, and I'm going to squeeze them over a piece of wood, because I found out that 3mm plywood fits very snugly inside this. Next up is the clamp and the power coils. I'd like to insert one of these here and the other one on the opposite side, so there's a little gap in between for the egg to be suspended. And in order to do so, I will sand off the paint from this side and then attach both coils with some 2-part epoxy. The base for this is going to be made from this. They're like hold down things for cables. You can screw one of these into the wall and click a piece of electrical conduit into it. Come to think about it, it's probably more for pipe than cables. Plan is to use 5 of those and alternate the direction of these, because I really like the patterning that's on this thing in order to make sort of a base on which the clamp will sit. I now attached the base as well, the 5 glued up pieces, and they're all held in place with this cabling, basically just to stop the clamp from moving. So I want the egg to be suspended here in the middle inside all of these electricity/lightning beams. I think I'm going to paint all the parts first and then later assemble this together. And the very last step will be connecting all of the wires, because painting around those would be a pain in the popo. So a little bit of time has passed since the last video. I got a new haircut and we're ready to paint all the pieces. So far what I've done is taken every individual piece that's going to get painted. I scrubbed it lightly with a piece of sandpaper and used a small file to cut some edges into it to kind of distress it a little bit. Because all of this is going to get painted a metal color. So it's going to be metal with a little bit of rust and some black weathering on it. So the metal color on this bit is made by mixing silver and graphite together. Other elements of this are going to be bronze. The bronze is made by giving it a black undercoat, and over that black undercoat I add, with some dry brushing, a mix of burnt umber and sienna that gives this bronzy effect. And to make the weathering, I take the black acrylic and I water it down. And then using a brush with the watered down black, you go into all the crevices, you let it dry for just a little bit, and then you wipe it off with a damp cloth. And what that does is it leaves the black behind in all the small crevices, and the rest gets wiped off. So it looks like it's been used. Using some more of the sienna, I added rusty bits to it. So voila, and now we are at like the more fun part of this, which is removing all the masking tape. Because then you finally get to see the contrast in your work. I have to continue to take all the rest of this masking tape off, and then I'm going to assemble all the pieces together with super glue. I suggest we do this in an 80s style montage scene, and then we're at touch-ups. Here we go.
final step in this diorama of a goose experimenting on her eggs is going to be the egg itself. And that role is going to be played by a jelly bean. I chose jelly beans because they have the exact right size, and if you pick a white one, it's fairly egg-shaped, even though they're supposed to be beans. So I'm gonna take the most egg-shaped bean and then try and fit it into our little lightning bolts. Yes. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you like these things I do, please consider subscribing. And to the left and the right of Gaby, there's videos all about making stuff. So thank you, till next time, bye.